Is this thing on? What do you believe about the people who voted opposite of you?
There's a couple things. I think that there are people who vote straight ticket just because they always have, and I don't want to say they don't know any better because that's diminishes their voice and their vote. But I think that just people have gotten the habit, and because we have become so divided by party, that people are like, oh, I'm going to, and also you have to register with the party. So a lot of people don't understand. In some case, you don't have to vote for the R or the D after the name if you're registered as part of that party. At least I believe in most cases. I don't know the laws in every state, and I don't know how it works everywhere.
We're here in Washington.
But here in Washington, you can vote for whoever you want to. And what do I believe about the people as individuals, aside from voting straight ticket? Because I think that it is what it is. Do I think it's lazy? Yes. Do I blame people for it? No, because I used to be one of those people. Because I thought I kind of paid attention and I thought that I was well informed until I understood how uninformed I was. Once you start really getting involved, it goes back to the whole, well, I didn't know that race was still an issue in the United States because most people don't pay attention at that level. And I think that what I believe most about people who voted opposite of me is I think they either vote straight ticket or they genuinely believe that they were voting for the person who was going to best meet their needs. And
Yeah.
that was not Kamala Harris.
I'm glad you said that because I mentioned this on a previous podcast episode. My, we'll say, message to people in America was vote Harris Walls. But to the end of the election, I changed that message to just vote
Yeah.
because one of the things I believe in like the grander movement of the species, like if you take a step back from your individual perspective, from your community perspective, from your identity perspective, from all this stuff, and just go back to the human perspective, like America is a great promise for the continuity of the species and the proliferation of freedom and liberty. And to
Unless you're
direct that
Palestinian.
was
Sorry.
no, you're right. No, you're right. You're right.
In general, I believe you're correct.
Right. And obviously there's a lot of nuance to this, but my point is that as Americans, like we have to vote based on our the values of our country and our individual benefit. I think the values of our country should be what we vote for, but saying you have to vote this way erodes those values. Instead of saying, here is your choice, choose. That's
Right.
the
But we're only
message.
going to give you two choices.
Right.
And you don't get to have as much say as you really think you do in who those choices are. That
That's
is my biggest problem.
right, and that's fundamentally un-American, right?
Yes.
And it's like I if I am what I say I am, which is a red-blooded patriotic American, like I will want the values of America to overcome the establishment of how our government runs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to reconcile those things when you are somebody who votes straight ticket and is basically falling in line with what the party wants, it just it creates this dissonance between the foundations of our country and what I have to do to still fall in line. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like
I
it
think what
doesn't
you
make
just
sense.
said, though, is the reason Trump won.
Right.
What you just said is the reason he won is because Trump is not an establishment candidate
Hmm.
and he wants to break things. And some things need to be broken. Let's not kid ourselves.
Hmm.
I'm so tired of, oh, Joe Biden did this, Joe Biden did that. Great. Awesome. It does not change the fact that the massive number of people whose lives have not gotten better or potentially have gotten worse. I can't remember the percentage, but it's a fairly large percentage of people don't have any stock or a 401k or any savings or
Or
any
a house.
or a house. I don't own a home. I'm 55.
Neither do I.
I'm terrified of dying at my desk someday because I'm not going to have the money to retire.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, well, okay, I have Social Security, sort of. Maybe, I hope I have Social Security. We don't know. But if you look at the large number of people, oh, well, the stock market's up. Who cares?
Mm,
We don't care. That does not impact my daily life. It does not impact my ability to quote unquote get ahead. And I think that whether I believe the majority of what he's selling these people is a giant bill of goods because he does not care about Donald Trump doesn't care about people. He cares about power and he cares about all of the things that Donald Trump cares about that don't matter to us. But at the end of the day, he makes people believe that he cares about their strife and their struggle. And we need to get better at that.
yeah. The next question I have for you is, what is the worst thing about society to you?
That's a hard question. I think the worst thing is that we have two things. Right after the election, or whenever it was, when Kellyanne Conway went on the news and started touting fake news. I remember thinking, oh God, please do not allow to the media, please do not allow them to normalize this phrase. And yet it's become part of our daily vernacular, fake news. And because of that, conspiracy theories are getting truer. We are more divided than we've ever been. And there has been, people have given each other permission to speak badly to and about others and to behave badly to and about others. And I think that is the worst thing is we have given each other permission to treat each other as less than. And when that happens, we see this breakdown that's happening and we become more divided and we become factions instead of a society that we're all in this together.
I would even add, we become hateful.
Very much. We've been permission. We've been given permission to be hateful. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And then there's no good to come from hate. And people are like, oh, it's not hate. And I'm like, I don't know how else to define it.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that answer. The next question is, what do you believe is one of the reasons Trump and the largely Republican Congress was elected?
They spoke to the needs of the everyday person. And okay, yes, he won the majority. And this is the other thing too that I think, yep, people have been saying, oh, well, he's been given a mandate, sort of. But also, even though he won the popular vote, it was still the number of people who voted was far less than in 2020, 2016. The full number of people that voted, it was a very low voter turnout. And hate to say it because Democrats are like, that's why we lost. No, not entirely, but it does matter because even though it was a lower voter turnout, if you look at states where Trump won, there are places where they voted in a Democrat as a governor
Right.
and some other things that lead me to believe that there isn't one reason. I think that there's a lot of nuance and there's
Mhm.
multiple reasons. I think the biggest reason is how divided we are and how people they can't give them permission to vote for a Democrat.
Mhm.
They won't give themselves permission to vote for a Democrat, even if that's who they really want to vote for, simply because there's a D after their name.
Right.
And I think it's one of the detriments of having a two-party system and
Right.
not having ranked choice voting is because people can't vote who they really want to vote for because they're afraid of whatever they're afraid of. And I think it's fear driven.
Right. And just I pulled up a little bit of statistics here. It looks like in terms of millions, like there was 76 million individual votes, close to 77 million individual votes that Trump got, 74 million votes that Harris got. Add those together, you get 150 million ish. And the US population is 346 million.
Yeah. So
Got
over half the people did not vote.
less than half the people
Yeah.
did. And I mean, I'm not going to criticize that because as you said, there's lots of reasons why people didn't show up, people switched
And I think
votes and all these things.
a lot of people I know didn't want to vote for either of them. So they didn't vote in the presidential.
That's right.
And that's where you get the states where you've got a Democrat as a governor and Trump won the state
Right. Interesting.
because a lot of people just didn't vote because they didn't want to vote for her and they didn't want to vote for him.
Right. All right. So the next question I have is, do you feel like you did enough to affect the election in the way you wanted to see it go?
No, because there really wasn't any. Well, I'm just going to say no. I gave my heart and my soul and a lot of money and a lot of time and effort, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to the Democratic Party for 6 years.
Hmm.
And like I said, it got toxic and I had to bail. And I learned a lot and I've changed a lot as a result of that, but I had to walk away. I considered being a PCO again at one time. And I'm like, nope, can't do it. Just can't do it.
I'm glad you made those choices for yourself, though, because
Had to.
and because at the end of the day, it like you have to take care of you. I was in a similar situation. I gave my blood, sweat, and tears, time, energy, money to the cause of social justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or diversity, equality, and inclusion, doesn't matter. I was fighting here locally for 10 years to help create opportunities for folks and change the way we look at each other and all this stuff. And a lot of that work moved forward, but then I started to see toxicity among some of that. And I don't want to diminish the work that happened, but when you have organizations who are leading the marches, misappropriating funds, like there's lots
Right.
of reasons why. There's lots of reasons why, right? You can look at the historical oppression, like this was their chance to get something. They got something and they didn't have the wherewithal or the long-term vision to know that it would detriment the movement.
Right.
Whatever. There's lots of reasons, but like when you when we start making progress and that progress creates inequality or inequity in a different way, then
Right.
it's like we haven't struck the balance. We
Right.
the pendulum swing instead
Right.
of saying, hey, like we need to stop the swings and figure out how the middle of this pendulum is where we should be spending our energy and where we should be bringing people into. What I
Right.
mean?
And I'm glad you brought that up again, bringing people into because the Democratic Party, if they really seriously want to look at themselves, need to look at whether or not they actually want people to come in and be part of the party and part of creating a party that is going to win and going to speak to the needs and values of everyone. And we had a state party chair for 2 terms who was one of the biggest bullies I've ever met in my life. And I supported them first time around, and I was wrong. Boy, was I wrong. And I learned the hard way how wrong I was. And not only that, it was perpetuated down throughout the party. Please do not get me wrong. There are so many really good people who were part of the party then and are still part of the party now. I'm good friends with some of them, and I applaud them for still being a part of it. I tend to lead with my heart and
Mm,
often trust people before I should. And I made the choice to trust people I probably shouldn't have. And so I feel there's a lot of guilt for me feeling like I wasn't involved in the party. I didn't really do anything. But then I'm sitting here going, but what changes did we really make in the years that I was involved? I don't even know. And
mm,
at the end of the day, the establishment at the DNC level is has so much power and they give so much incentive to state party chairs and other people who have power within state and local organizations that the pressure on those people to force everyone within their organization to step up and march to the beat of the drum that is being dictated from the national level. It's immense. And I keep hoping that it'll happen. And I think that there are some people who are genuinely trying to make changes that will force the Democratic Party to really take a hard look at themselves and allow some of those changes to be made. Because again, at the end of the day, we're not winning. And honestly, why not try something new? If it doesn't work, at least we know we tried.
mhm,
But if we never try anything new, we're going to keep losing. We're going to keep getting the same exact results over and over. And the big push away from the caucuses to a primary system was part of that in 2020. Whenever we did that, I was chair of the Caucus Improvement Committee for the state. And That was the beginning of the end. It was the beginning of what broke me, the gaslighting and all of the things that there was a push at the national level. They don't want caucuses because caucuses bring in outsiders. Caucuses bring in people that disrupt the status quo. And that's what they don't want. They don't want the disruption of the status quo. And I tried really hard to be one of those people that I'm like, I can work within this system and be a disruptor at the same time, basically killing myself trying to do it right.
They,
And
I know, I
that
do know.
is the part of the problem too. As an organization, the Democratic Party has to be kinder and gentler to it, the people within,
Hmm.
and more accepting and more inclusive.
Right.
Just because the Hillary Bernie divide obviously was huge, and there was a gal who huge Hillary supporter. We became friends because we were both state committee members. We became friends. She is I'm not going to say who she is. People who know me know who she is. But we became friends, and I genuinely grew to care about her and like her. And we would have dinner after meetings and things. We didn't hang out, but we were friends. And then 2020 came around, and the minute I was a Bernie Sanders supporter again, she hated me. She started talking crap about me on social media, disparaging me every chance she got. I'm like, wait a minute, we were past this. But that within the Democratic Party is part of the problem. It's so tied to candidates, the way that people behave, the way that we treat each other, in many cases, is so tied to that presidential level. Where at the end of the day, I'm like, we're in this for Spokane, me for the third legislative district, them for their legislative district, and yet you would rather call me names and disparage me and do all these things and say all these things that are divisive and hurtful because we don't agree on who the presidential nominee should be. I can't
Right.
wrap my head around the thought process that goes into that, because all that does is cause division within the party, and we get less done.
Right.
And then we can't agree on things. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree and move forward
Hmm.
and find compromise. And it's the other thing that we're all really bad at these days in government, is finding any compromise. But if we
Sure.
can't do it at the local level, if we can't do it at the state level within the party, how do we expect to get anything done or get any candidates elected at any level?
Right. Well, at least the party politics at the state level and on the local level, it's very insular. Like we in Washington State, we're a relatively progressive Democratic state, but how does that translate to creating models or strategies that can be duplicated across all of the states? We don't have that feedback loop or even power to really say, this is what we're doing in Washington, other places should do it as well. We don't even have that access, and at least I don't know if we have that access or that ability. And so it just creates another version of the individual uh being oppressed by the system because nobody's listening, that
Right.
actually making decisions. So man, yeah, there's so many layers to that, and I'm glad you're hitting on a lot of them.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
funny that you say Washington is a blue state. Washington, again, is primarily a blue state, primarily because of King County.
that's right.
And there's a few other counties that go blue. If you look at Washington, much like the rest of the country, it's mostly red, but that's because it's rural. Again,
So
that
more land, less
yeah,
people.
and we haven't even talked about, obviously it's a bigger conversation, but talking about the electoral college and does that work today? I say absolutely not.
Mhm.
It's a racist system to begin with. It was put into place so that slaves could be counted. Come on, people. Can we please move past this? There's so many things that, again, that need to be dismantled from within our government. And when we as Democrats have the opportunity and have the quote unquote power to do, we never do it. And
That's
it's
right.
so frustrating. It's, well, why don't people want to be involved with the party? There it is, right there.
Right.
Do something.
Right.
Please do something. It's frustrating.
Yeah. So the last question I have, Joanne, is what do you want to say to the version of you 4 years in the future?
That's a really hard question. because I don't know where I'm going to be in 4 years. 3 years ago, I was in the process of buying a house, and then a whole bunch of stuff happened, and that didn't happen. And now I'm in this apartment that I hate renting, and I hate being a renter, and all this other stuff. So, from that perspective, I don't know where I'm going to be in 4 years. I may still be in Spokane. I'm hoping to be back on the west side where my brothers live and where I have my best friend lives in Spokane. I have other friends here, but the majority of my friends live on the west side. So there's a part of me that wants to say, thank you for stepping back to the plate and getting involved again. I would like to be able to say that to myself. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that for many reasons, mostly mental health issues. Not we all have mental health issues, but
Uh,
mostly it's that toxicity that I'm terrified of. I It wasn't too long after this thing happened where it was like 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I was in my bathroom sobbing because of politics. And my daughter came in and she was like, "Mom, are you okay?" And I said, "No." She said, "Politics?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "I don't understand why you are still involved because they would not pee on you if you were on fire. They don't care about you, and you care so much. She said, I'm afraid for you, and I'm afraid for what's this is doing to you." And she wasn't wrong. I was so just invested at every level, emotionally, mentally. I was so invested that if I get involved again, I'm going to have to figure out a way to have better boundaries, I think. And don't get me wrong, I'm part of me, when you go through hard things, you learn things and you change. And there ways that I would behave differently? Absolutely. Was I partially at fault? Absolutely, because we have to own our own parts and things.
you should.
Well,
And
as we grow up and get older and hopefully wiser, yeah, I would make some different choices and not put every ounce of every spare minute of every day, every vacation hour I had, everything.
yeah,
And I went into debt so that I could do things and be involved because I couldn't afford to pay out of pocket to go do all the things that I was involved in. And
right.
I look back and go, boy, those weren't the right choices. 4 years from now, if I get involved again, which I'm still not sure if I'm going to, but if I do, I hope that I can say to myself, nice job on setting the boundaries and making good choices on where to spend my energy. Because I genuinely believe and wish that everyone, and I mean everyone, would do just one thing. Even if you volunteer one weekend a month doing something, being involved in your community, connecting with other people, being around people that you don't know and may not have anything in common with, putting yourself in an uncomfortable position from time to time.
Mm,
Because when we do that, we become more compassionate. We learn more about ourselves and people around us. And I genuinely believe that we come together and have more opportunity to be less divided when, and are less likely to be divided when we are doing things like that. Even if it's just, again, a week, one weekend, even one day, 2 hours in 1 year, something. I wish everyone would do something. So I've not been involved for a little over, well, for about 3 years. I resigned from everything it's been about 3 years. And maybe I don't do the same things. Maybe I do something different. But I now feel like 4 years from now, I need to be able to say, good job on figuring out how to make a difference again and doing it in a way that is healthy for me.
right.
I
Right.
don't know if that makes sense. I hope
No,
it
it
makes
makes
sense.
not only healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, all of it. I get it. I
Yeah, there's
get it. And
so
I,
much, and there's so many things that are so important,
yep,
especially given the Trump presidency. I'm also disabled,
yep,
and it's one of the, I don't know, I keep seeing these commercials, these proudly disabled people. Have you seen those commercials with proud to be disabled? They're
yeah,
fantastic. I love them. And I was part of the disabilities caucus when I was involved with
sure.
the party, and some of my favorite people I met as part of that caucus. And so maybe that's where I get involved again. There's two groups of people that, well, there's two groups of people that have been still given permission for folks to make fun of more often than not. And that's people with disabilities and fat people.
Sure.
And those are two groups that I fall well within. And it's one of those things that it's everybody deserves representation equally. Everybody deserves to have an equal voice. And so if the whole nothing without us or nothing about us without us, I really believe that has to be true. And people that have disabilities, people that are part of marginalized groups, we really need to step up and help each other and support each other. So I'm sorry. My
Yep.
superpower tangents. I'm Tangent Girl. It's my superhero name is Tangent Girl. So sorry
Excellent.
I kind of go off on tangents. I
Don't be
apologize, but
sorry. Don't be sorry for who you are. Don't be sorry for who you like what you've done because I believe you're perfect just the way you are,
well, thank you.
despite
You're very kind.
oh my
I
gosh.
think everybody is, right? I think we all have
Exactly.
values.
Exactly. It's the issue is that society creates the internalized depression or the self-hate or the brokenness that a lot of people live through. And I
Right.
believe as an evolved society that has technology and understands more things than we ever have understood before, like we can get over some of these things. And
Yeah.
so I agree
I
with you.
truly believe we can.
I
And
do too.
again, I
I
think
do
we
too.
have far more in common than not.
That's right. That's right.
And I cannot believe at our core that we can or will let hate divide us.
Right.
I have to hold on to that hope.
Ditto. Ditto. All right, Joanne. Well, I super again appreciate you and um
Likewise, thank you
uh,
so much for having me. I apologize. I'm such a talker.
again, if you apologize, please just don't because
Okay. I take
we
it
your
back. I'm not
perspective
sorry, not sorry.
yeah, thank you. Your perspective, your stories, your narrative matters in the global conversation. All of ours does. And
I agree.
we
All
just need to
everybody's voice matters.
that's right. We need to figure out how to incorporate them in a way that creates a society that is better for all of us. And that's my sign off. We are all different, but we are all also the same. What matters is we recognize that and move forward to make a better world for all of us. So,
Amen to that.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Of course.